Welcome back to our channel, where we bring you the deepest dives into the turbulent lives of your favorite Genoa City residents. Today is a brilliant day to unpack the incredibly dense psychological warfare currently suffocating the Newman family, as ghosts from the past refuse to stay buried, and the lines between justice and vengeance become dangerously blurred. The atmosphere inside Sharon Newman's usually warm and inviting cottage has been entirely replaced by a suffocating, visceral dread following the arrival of Nick and Noah Newman. The father and son enter the sanctuary carrying a burden of information so heavy it threatens to shatter the fragile peace the family has been desperately trying to rebuild. They bring the horrifying confirmation that Matt Clark, the architect of their most recent nightmares and a historical monster who has inflicted unimaginable trauma upon their family, is not only alive but has returned to Genoa City. The chilling caveat to this return is Matt's bold proclamation that he is suffering from profound amnesia, a convenient wiping of the slate that completely absolves him of the terror he unleashed in the Las Vegas day in the Sahara Desert. The sheer psychological weight of this revelation instantly drains the color from the room, plunging the occupants back into a state of hypervigilant paranoia. For Nick Newman, the concept of Matt Clark suffering from genuine memory loss is an insult to his intelligence and a blatant mockery of the agony he is currently enduring. Nick's immediate, visceral reaction is to reject the amnesia narrative entirely, viewing it through the lens of a man who has been manipulated, tortured, and poisoned by this exact adversary. Nick knows intimately the depths of Matt's depravity, having recently survived a lethal dose of tainted fentanyl specifically engineered by Matt to destroy him. In Nick's mind, this sudden amnesia is nothing more than a highly calculated, deeply sinister manipulation tactic designed to lower their defenses, invoke a nerd's sympathy, and allow a predator to walk freely among his prey. He views the memory loss as the ultimate psychological weapon, a Trojan horse wheeled directly into the heart of Genoa City, and his entire body hums with the furious need to expose the lie before Matt can strike again. Sienna, however, processes this terrifying news through a completely different, guilt-ridden emotional filter. Wrapped tightly in the remnants of her shattered nerves, Sienna is forced to confront the violent reality of her final altercation with Matt in the unforgiving heat of the Nevada day in the Sahara Desert. While Nick sees a mastermind at work, Sienna is haunted by the physical memory of lifting a heavy rock and bringing it down upon Matt with every ounce of desperate, survivalist strength she possessed. She tearfully admits to the room that her frantic attempt to stop the monster might have actually inflicted enough blunt force trauma to cause genuine brain damage. This agonizing confession tears Sienna apart from the inside out, leaving her trapped in a torturous emotional limbo where she must question whether she has inadvertently created the perfect alibi for a psychopath or genuinely erased the mind of the man who tormented her. The psychological burden of Matt's return is severely compounded for Sienna when the conversation shifts to Noah's recent whereabouts, revealing a completely different kind of threat lurking in the shadows of her life. Upon discovering that Noah had recently been spending time with Audra Charles at the local coffee house, a fierce, suffocating wave of jealousy crashed over Sienna's already fragile psyche. Audra is a known corporate predator with a history of emotional manipulation, and Sienna is acutely aware that this ambitious woman is patiently waiting in the wings, eager to capitalize on any vulnerability in her relationship with Noah. The realization that Audra is circling her boyfriend during a time of such profound personal crisis makes Sienna feel as though she is fighting a war on two fronts, battling a literal monster from her past while simultaneously trying to fend off a romantic rival intent on stealing her future. Meanwhile, within the opulent but tense walls of the Newman Ranch, a different kind of psychological battle is being waged between Adam Newman and Chelsea Lawson. Adam is working overtime to project an aura of absolute stability, desperately trying to reassure Chelsea that his recent foray into the dangerous underworld of Las Vegas was a temporary necessity and that he has entirely abandoned the adrenaline-fueled life of gambling. He insists with a calm, measured demeanor that he possesses the willpower to resist the intoxicating pull of the cards and the high-stakes environment that once defined him. However, Chelsea remains deeply unsettled, her sharp intuition picking up on subtle, terrifying nuances in Adam's behavior that suggest the darkness within him is merely dormant, not destroyed. Chelsea's anxiety crystallizes around the specific, chilling tone Adam adopts whenever he is forced to communicate with Reza Thompson. She astutely points out that Adam's voice undergoes a subtle, undeniable transformation, dropping into the smooth, detached, and ruthlessly pragmatic cadence of his notorious alter ego, Spider. Adam attempts to brush off her concerns, arguing that interacting with Reza simply requires him to briefly wear the Spider persona as a necessary survival tactic in a dangerous game. But for Chelsea, the ease with which Adam slips back into the skin of a cold-blooded Vegas operator is terrifying. She questions where the performance ends and the true Adam begins, terrified that the man she loves is fundamentally addicted to the darkness he claims to have left behind. Despite Adam's relentless, passionate declarations that his only desire is to build a safe, loving, and permanent life with Chelsea and their son Connor, the shadows of the Newman family's moral ambiguity continue to stretch across their relationship. The tension escalates dramatically when Chelsea shifts her focus to the broader, deeply corrupt corporate warfare currently being orchestrated by Victor Newman. Chelsea bravely challenges the patriarch's methods, openly questioning the authenticity of the highly damning evidence suddenly being used to destroy Phyllis Summers, Kane Ashby, and Billy Abbott. Her moral compass is deeply offended by the blatant fabrication of legal documents, and she expects Adam to share her revulsion at this abuse of power. Instead, Adam delivers a chilling defense of his father's machinations, completely dismissing Chelsea's ethical concerns with a wave of pragmatic indifference. Adam aligns himself firmly with Victor, arguing that the origin of the evidence is entirely irrelevant when weighed against the ultimate outcome. In Adam's Machiavellian worldview, Phyllis, Kane, and Billy committed corporate treason against the Newman Empire, and therefore they deserve to be crushed by any means necessary. He acts as though the scales of justice are being balanced, regardless of the artificial intelligence used to tip them. This cold, calculating perspective horrified Chelsea, reinforcing her deepest fears that the ruthless, emotionally detached Spider is not just a character Adam plays, but a fundamental component of his DNA. The suffocating tension at the ranch is abruptly shattered by the arrival of Nick, who brings the explosive news of Matt Clark's amnesiac return directly to Victor and Adam. The revelation instantly pivots the Newman men away from their corporate conquests and thrusts them back into a primal state of familial defense. The sheer audacity of Matt parading around Genoa City claiming a blank memory ignites a furious, protective rage within the family. For Adam, the news is a harsh reminder of the unfinished business in Las Vegas. While Victor immediately begins calculating how to permanently neutralize this resurrected threat without triggering a massive legal fallout, the focus narrows sharply on Nick, the primary victim of Matt's recent cruelty, whose physical and mental endurance is being pushed to the absolute breaking point. Seeking a momentary reprieve from the claustrophobic atmosphere of the ranch, Nick and Adam retreat to the patio of the local coffee house. But the change of scenery offers no escape from the internal demons ravaging Nick's body. As they sit in the open air, Adam's hypervigilant gaze locks onto his brother, immediately recognizing the terrifying physical manifestations of a man teetering on the edge of a severe relapse. Adam notes the restless agitation, the subtle tremors, and the sheen of cold sweat on Nick's brow, correctly identifying these as the agonizing symptoms of opioid withdrawal. The memory of Nick's near-fatal overdose in the Vegas bunker flashes vividly in Adam's mind, prompting him to gently but firmly question if Nick is experiencing overwhelming cravings for the drugs Matt forced upon him. Nick, operating from a place of deep shame and desperate denial, fiercely deflects Adam's accurate accusations. He builds a defensive wall constructed of plausible excuses, attributing his erratic, jittery state entirely to the emotional shock of Matt Clark's return and the adrenaline coursing through his veins. Nick vehemently argues that anyone would be physically agitated knowing their tormentor is walking free, and he hastily adds that his hands are shaking simply because he has neglected to eat all day. The combination of emotional distress and low blood sugar provides a convenient, socially acceptable mask for the agonizing chemical warfare happening inside his brain. Adam, wanting to believe his brother's strength, temporarily accepts the deflection and heads inside the coffee house to secure the food Nick claims he desperately needs. The moment Adam disappears through the glass doors, the fragile facade Nick has constructed instantly crumbles, leaving him entirely alone with the monstrous reality of his addiction. With trembling fingers and a heart hammering against his ribs, Nick reaches into the deepest, most hidden pocket of his jacket and pulls out a small, crinkled plastic bag. Inside rests a single, leftover fentanyl pill, a lethal remnant from the tainted batch that nearly ended his life. The pill represents both absolute terror and immediate, profound relief from the bone-deep agony of his withdrawals. Nick stares at the small object, his eyes wide with a mixture of revulsion and overwhelming desire, perfectly capturing the tragic, paralyzing duality of a man who desperately wants to live but is chemically chained to the very substance that is killing him. Watching this storyline unfold evokes a profound sense of genuine heartbreak and subjective emotional weight that transcends typical daytime drama. There is a deeply unsettling, visceral tragedy in watching a legacy character like Nick Newman, a man usually defined by his strength and protective nature, reduced to a shivering, vulnerable shell by an invisible chemical demon. It forces the viewer to confront the agonizing reality of trauma and addiction, illustrating how the scars left by monsters like Matt Clark are rarely just physical. The sheer desperation in Nick's eyes as he stares at that single pill is a masterclass in portraying the isolating, suffocating nature of substance abuse, making it impossible not to feel a profound, aching empathy for his silent, solitary suffering on that patio. As the Genoa City sun beats down on Nick's trembling hands, the ultimate question hangs heavily in the air, thick with impending tragedy. Will Nick summon the superhuman strength required to put the pill away and face the agonizing road of sober recovery? Or will the crushing weight of Matt Clark's return push him back into the lethal embrace of the opioids? With a manipulative psychopath roaming the streets claiming innocence, and a family tearing itself apart over corporate greed and moral flexibility, the Newman dynasty has never been more vulnerable to collapse. You will not want to miss a single second of the explosive fallout as these deeply damaged souls collide in the days to come.